adults who respond to tiny humans' needs, that is, respond to their cues, the behaviors they emit, that build serve and return relationships, picking them up, laying them down, singing to them, reading, all those things build pathways in the brain that when they get connected, they are hardwired in the brain. Neurotransmitters get released, some terrific ones like dopamine, the reward neurotransmitter that leads to all kinds of other activities happening. The areas that are repeated, persistent, get linked up across the brain, creating networks. Now, we all humans have a system in our brain that allows us, that pushes us to emit what we need with behaviors. And we're also, as humans, built to receive those messages in from others. By paying attention to this, you build the capacities in the brain to learn, to grow, and to develop.
To me, it's the building block of learning, and attachment is the foundational place for learning to be able to happen. All the other things, how they live in the world, how they connect with others, what they engage with in their play, is all going to be connected to feeling a sense of security. And that has to be our main thing that we offer. It's the same as with how does learning happen. We're not to teach how does learning happen. We're to hold a space for learning to happen. And when a child is securely attached, learning can happen.
These children and how they come to us, they're gifts from creation. And if you get a gift, you take care of it. Like that's my thinking. So when you think about these tiny individuals, these human beings, they already come with spirit and understanding and purpose in life. So that's what I believe Minima Boswin is. When we receive that good life, we say birth to 7 years. So in the development of that brain, when a child receives its food, sustenance, adults who care and respond to their needs in a very good way, when it actually takes more than a family, it's a community.
Well, the reality is that human babies are born completely helpless. It's why we are designed to be a social species, to be able to emit something that says, help, I need you, look after me. So when infants are looked after in the way that their needs are met, that is, that there's somebody there when they are distressed, upset and sick, it's called proximity seeking, coming in. The stress that they first experienced is being emitted by them crying, by them running to you. But what happens when the stress system is responded to by you being there is that it gets quieted. But if it's not quieted, if you're not there for the baby, then their stress system stays up and they cannot learn. They have to learn that there is somebody who is their best bet, and that's you. What happens when you build a secure attachment is a two-way relationship. It's so important, and it changes your brain too.
Often people think that children are born into the world for us to teach and nurture, and then that happens. But I believe in our ways of knowing as Indigenous people that children are actually the teachers. And the way I can explain that to you is that to give understanding and to make meaning is a child when it's born, it has work to do, and it teaches us unconditional love. So I think Creator in its entirety understood that we needed as adults to understand unconditional love. And what I mean by that is when a child is born, anyone would give their life for that baby because it's unconditional love for future generations. So when I think about a toddler and their teaching is really about teaching us safety as well, is about truth. Why do I have to go to bed? Why do I need to eat all my vegetables? And when I think about finding those answers, we're constantly looking for truth. So they're actually teaching us.
If you pick up a child all the time, they begin to create this attachment to you. And then they begin to trust the world around them. And then they feel free to move about without you. I actually worked with a child in a preschool room when I was a preschool teacher a long time ago, and I held her hand for 3 months. She needed to hold my hand for 3 months. And she finally let go. She was a child that English was her second language. And I could only imagine what it felt like for her to come into a classroom with 16 other children and these big people in the room and not understanding a word that was being said. And I knew that my role was to create this secure place for this child. And she spent 3.5 months holding my hand. And I'll never forget her. She taught me so much.
That sense of belonging is not just an individual thing. It's not just within the infant. It's actually always social and always relational. And so how do we make sure that child feels that sense of belonging? And what that looks like will differ child to child, because obviously no infant, no child is the same. And so attuning to that infant will look different just depending on who that infant is. And when I say attuning, I just mean that state of just being with, right? That state of affirming and just being with that infant, and in whatever way that looks like.
They need to be loved and cared for, and when they're distressed, somebody to respond to them. It's true the world over. Now, specifics of the response can change. Babies very quickly learn how to get the other's attention. And it's essential then that you seek to understand the context, the conditions, the stressors that families that you're working with are living in. And you can only do that by connecting to them, by talking to them, by spending time reflecting together.
I remember walking into an infant classroom and there was a couple of children crying, so I had heard this from the hallway, so I went in to go and help. And the educator said, "Oh, don't pick him up, he's just looking for attention." And I looked at her and I said, "Then you should give her some." Because that is what the child is asking for right now. In this moment, at this time, this child is giving you information that they need someone to hold them. They need help in this moment. And attention seeking is connection seeking. It's relationship seeking. It's not a negative behavior. It's actually a really positive behavior, because children are learning how to express themselves and seek out what they need in the world.
Babies cannot calm themselves on their own. Initially, they all need our help. If they're not soothed, they give up. They learn they're not safe and secure, that no one's there for me. Now this means, very importantly, babies cannot manipulate you. They don't have the connections yet in the brain to do that higher order thinking. They're just telling you what I need now. The more responsive you are, that will mean less crying over time, less stress, more health.
This whole idea of attachment, we are attached spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally to those children. And when we think about whole beings, and then we think about creation and how they're attached to the land, how they're helpers, animal helpers, plant helpers, that help us, elements, to foster attachment in this way. And it takes a lot. It takes more than that mother. I know that when you're with child in our community, you're a creator. So we gather around you with all the positive energy that we can to help that baby and that creation.
Anyone who works with children knows that young 2-year-olds already have a very strong personality. and, you know, a strong sense of self and a desire to be in the world and to get to know the world. And so for the adult figures, again, what that looks like to attune to that child will differ child to child, and we can't talk about that attunement without thinking about social justice and creating safer, braver spaces, you know, to gesture to Brene Brown, because that child will pick up from a very young age if they don't belong.
One of the things that are really important for secure attachment is that children know and understand who their primary caregiver is, and that they are greeted by the same person every morning, which requires early learning centers to really think about the schedule of their day and how they're staffing. Because are we staffing for the benefit of educators' schedules? Or are we staffing for the benefit of children's attachment?
Your attachment relationship is not going to be diminished by the expansion of that attachment highway. Is the child going to be confused about who's my go-to person? No, they're going to learn that there are more than one person that they can go to. And so it's important to recognize and understand the attachment relational needs of each and every child. Then you can say, okay, so we know that they love Teacher Jean, but when Teacher Jean is away, we need to have other people who know that child full well. So we need to be intentional. Introduce other caregivers. Do it alongside the foundational relationship.
I say this to early childhood educators a lot, that children choose you, and they're spirited. And even through scent, through your voice, the tone of your voice, there's attachment. And personality is so important, you know, that we connect that way. So not always will all children connect to the same educator the same. And it's relearning how to be connected in community, how to be connected holistically in the cycle of life, what I've been speaking about. So my thinking is, it is time, it's a call to action almost in the field, that we reconnect in ways that maybe we didn't grow up in ourselves. So my only idea around education today and working with families and children is really enjoying life. And how do we do that? What does it mean? Well, we have to be in a relationship.
Our work is about love. Our work is about that love builds brains. And that's that other piece of it I always think that we often think about in terms of education, is that education is more important than love. It's interesting that the word love is often one that people shy away from in early learning, and I think perhaps less than in education, certainly. But still this idea that it's not my responsibility to love, it's my responsibility to care. But care absent of love, I just don't know how that can exist. And it's not about loving the child in the same way that a family does. It's loving a child in the way that they are with you and in relationship with you in the program. We have these children at the youngest age, and that it is love that builds brains, and it is love that builds attachment.